Well, I thought I would go with something that I go to a lot for this next little demonstration on things that you can cook at home. I'm going to make a Cincinnati style chili. Now, if you're not from Ohio, if you've never had it, you may think it was an abomination because it has things like cinnamon and cocoa powder in it. But I can tell you right now, it really is a delicious thing. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start with some garlic and some onions, and then I've got a bunch of other spices that are going to go in here as well. I've got, well, let's see, allspice and cinnamon and cumin, some cayenne if I feel like it, obviously some chili powder, and I've got some apple cider vinegar, some Worcestershire sauce, some cocoa powder, and I have 16 ounces of tomato sauce. I mean, you could use tomato paste and water or something like that if you were in a pinch, but if you've got just regular tomato sauce, it just makes life easier for you. So I'm going to mince up the garlic and the onions, and we'll get ready to put those into my Dutch oven. I'm going to get these pretty fine as well because I don't want a bunch of big chunks in this. You know, when you're doing this style of chili is relatively smooth, so I mean, you're not going to have like big chunks of beans and things like that that you might in some other styles of chili, right? All right. And we'll throw these in pretty much the same time that we do the beef, although I'll start the onions a little bit early because I do want them to get a little bit of color on them before I introduce the beef. You don't have to. You could just throw it all in at once, but I kind of just prefer to do it that way. All right, you don't need to watch me dice up all of my veg. It's really all the veg that's going into this, actually. We'll dice that out a lot, too. So I've already basically cleaned everything up off of my space. The ground beef, I just defrosted. I buy ground beef in bulk and then we'll divide it up into 1 pound. That's a pound portions, and I put it flat. Excuse me, I'll store it flat in the freezer so they'll stack up. So you can just have them one on top of the other, which is really a nice way to do things. So I'm going to go ahead and get this, my Dutch oven. Any heavy bottomed kind of larger pot would work. I'm going to get this over medium heat, and I'm going to add, I'm going to use some avocado oil in this case, mainly because it's got a higher smoke point than say all right. So we're going to go ahead and throw down our onions here. You can hear a little bit of a sizzle there, so that's a good thing. I just want to get these things started a little bit before I throw in the beef and the garlic. I don't want to throw the garlic in right away, primarily because, as you guys are probably aware, garlic burns. And if you, right off the top, burn your garlic, that tastes disgusting. It ruins the whole dish, and you just have to start over again. So I'm just throwing a little bit of salt on there. Helps to draw moisture out of the onions as well. All right, so these are starting to get soft. So now that I have my onions getting a little bit soft, we'll go ahead and throw in, this is just 1 clove of garlic. If you want more, throw in more, but for what I do, garlic is just kind of an accent. I don't want it really to dominate everything. So I'm just going to throw in 1 clove that I've minced up a little bit there, cut it up pretty nice and fine. You could use one of those, you know, garlic press things too, but I don't use one. I like to use my knife. All right, so there's that. Then we're going to go ahead. Oh, it's starting to smell good in here. onion and garlic just smells fantastic. I mean, you can just leave that on the stove top and your house is going to smell great. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and throw in my beef. I'm actually also going to throw in a tablespoon of chili powder. This is just regular old chili powder that you get at the store. I made the mistake once. I wasn't paying attention and I used, I have an Indian Madras chili powder. I should have noticed because it's a much paler color. It's kind of an orangey red. And did I mention it was Indian? If you know anything about Indian cuisine, it tends to be hot. And it made my end product pretty spicy, which I liked, but I couldn't really share it with anybody then because not everybody has the same kind of tolerance for that sort of heat. Actually, that reminds me, I don't think I'm going to throw in the cayenne for this one because I think I'm going to give some of this to my dad, and he's not really a big fan of a high spice. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and toss in a few more things here. I have a teaspoon of allspice and a teaspoon of cinnamon and a teaspoon of cumin. I'm going to get all this incorporated. Oh, allspice, cinnamon, and cumin. There's nothing about that not to like. And I can tell you, those three, when you put them in, it just smells so good. I'm just kind of scraping down the sides because I got onions and crawled up the sides here from stirring around. All right. Now let's go ahead and add the rest of our ingredients. So first I've got a tablespoon and a half of just regular cocoa powder. I suppose if you wanted to, you could use like a baking chocolate and just grate a little bit in rather than using the cocoa powder. But I find the cocoa powder just to be a little bit more consistent because I can measure that a lot easier, and there's just a lot of different varieties of chocolate that you might throw in and it can throw things off, so I don't like to do that. All right, then I've got a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, and then I have 16 ounces of tomato sauce. Not tomato puree or anything like that, it's just tomato sauce. Let's get all that incorporated, and then I'm just going to finish it off with about a half a cup or so of just water. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to bring this up to a simmer, and then we're going to just let it sit for like an hour and a half, okay? And then it'll reduce down into, if you've ever had those wonderful Cincinnati style chilies, you'll know exactly what we're looking for. You can already kind of see that color coming into it. So we'll be back in about an hour and a half. All right, so we're getting pretty close here, and one of the things I forgot to mention earlier is as this cooks over that course of an hour and a half or so, you want to just stir it occasionally, because if there's, you just want to scrape up if there's anything that's kind of sticking to the bottom. There's actually quite a lot of flavor that comes into that as well, to be honest. But I have that, I just have a little bit left here. And in the meantime, I have also started a pot of, in this case, linguine. You could use spaghetti or whatever. Any pasta would work. Because I'm just going to do what's called a three-way. So I have pasta, I have chili. I'm going to put it on this plate. I've made some quick garlic bread. I've got some shredded cheese and a little sour cream. That's all going to go on here in just a minute as well. And it should be very tasty. All right, folks, so let's finish up. This is how this is going to work. So I have my chili is done. It had a good hour and a half simmering. And again, I stirred it every 10 minutes or so probably. And just keep things from sticking to the bottom. So that's what we did. And here we go. So this is what's called a three-way, which is basically spaghetti or pasta. I didn't have spaghetti, I have linguine with the chili and some cheese. I'm actually going to throw some sour cream on too, because I love sour cream with chili. So we'll go ahead and smother this pasta with my chili, and then we're just going to come in here with a nice bit of cheese, because that's how they do it at those restaurants. And then I'm just going to go ahead and give myself a little bit of sour cream to boot, because hey, who doesn't need a little more fat? So let's give it a taste. A little cheese, a little sour cream, a little chili. Fantastic. The other way that I usually like to do this, when I didn't have hot dog buns, is to make conies. So you just do a hot dog in the bun, chili over the top, cheese over the top of that. Some people will throw diced white onions on, or whatever it is that floats your boat. You could throw beans in this if you wanted to as well, just as up to your personal preference. But this is Cincinnati chili. I'm going to wait for this to cool off, and then I'll put it in little deli containers and throw those in the freezer. I'll keep one in the fridge because I'll have another one here probably the next few days. But then anytime I'm in the mood for a hearty meal, I'll have this all ready to go. Have a great one.